we have loaded into hard left. In the top left side, we are looking at the main base of a feisty Polish player that spent some time living in Germany, but I believe he lives in Poland again in this day and age. It is Blazer Krystianer.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom right for Berserker Esports. It is the German player Spatz.
I guess it is Blazer Esports as well, but I just wanted to go with Blazer this time, Stefan.
Oh, is it Blazer? Blazer
Esports? I believe that's the thing.
For Spatz or
for Krystianer.
Oh, yeah.
Your intro was fine. I was talking about my own because I didn't go all the way.
I was like, oh no, what did I do? It's my first day back. I'm making mistakes.
You didn't make any mistake, mate. Both of them opening up with a pylon and a double gate setup on the high ground. But as we already said, previewing this game, that doesn't mean that we're just going to play a nice game where you make Stalker Sentry or Double Stalker to expand. I think both of them have experimented with a couple of the Adept openings. But I'd be kind of surprised to see like the 8 Adept opening here. Not because I think it's weak. It's just a bit weird. And I don't know if you want to be that weird in such an important best of 3. Like if these two play against each other in the round of 16 or the round of 32. Whoa, for a split second there we pulled probes, but we didn't get it. That's a little bit of like, it doesn't mean much for the outcome of this game. But it just feels bad, right? Because you tried something. And the first thing you tried in this important best of 3 doesn't go your way. But yeah, as I said, like if this is a round of 16 of a weekly, they're gonna experiment. They're gonna do weird stuff. They're gonna maybe do builds that they don't truly believe in. This is one of the biggest series that these two will play in the entire year of 2023. Like, it sounds dramatic, but that's really what it is. You win here, you make it into the playoffs, you'll play at least 2 series there, can win a whole lot more prize money. So now you're gonna go with the builds that you believe in the most. Krystianer is gonna go for not just the 2, but at least 4, maybe 6 or 8 Adept opening. Spatz is gonna go for the in-base robo.
Yeah, and this does feel like a third gateway is not long behind this, but Krystianer with the sneaky probe hit that in the natural, gets in and gets the scout. If it was going to be that 3-gate robo, do you change it up now? That is the big question for me.
Yeah, that's interesting because Krystianer is also getting a robo already, and this is everything that I hope for. That's a decent amount of damage, by the way, with 2 Adepts and a probe, and Krystianer is committing to just trying to kill this battery. Will kill it, no cancel, but he does end up losing 1 Adept immediately, but even 1 Adept can get a couple of probes rather quickly. The Stalkers on the other side of the map are also finding a little bit of success, and now it's going to be very interesting because I actually think the best thing you can do here is basically give up on any sort of aggression and try to counter what your opponent is up to. Do you do that with a Stargate where you try to get out Phoenixes as well? So you can play Phoenix Robo against Robo? Or do you say, nope, none of that, that's a bit too much for me. I'm just gonna drop the Twilight and try to play a 1-base Blink Stalker? But I don't really believe in 1-base Robo and Twilight very much. Steadfast.
Yeah, I am not too sure. I do agree with you. I think you pump the brakes on what you were planning. And what I was actually looking for was an expansion, but Spatz has interestingly cut probes for a little bit. And it looks like with a couple sentries warping on in, I think he might be looking for a bit of a contain. This is very funky though. Ships passing in the night, they do miss one another. And wait, okay, what is he doing with these sentries? They just went on a weird little adventure. He does scout 4 sentries of his opponents, but I think this War Prism from Krystianer is going to get a lot of work done.
Yep, 1 Stalker, and even if that Immortal is out, it's not going to be good enough. 2 Stalkers and the Immortal is a little bit better, so we have 4 Stalker harass in the top left side, but we've got 6 Adapt harass, and we're going to go for the Rico immediately. I don't hate it, but we still need to unload our Stalkers before they can really fire. In the end, both of them getting 3 workers. Krystianer still with a 5-worker lead, but Spatz has that expand. Is going to shade in here, by the way, and there is nothing to keep these Adepts out. Cancels the shade very early. Bit surprised by it. Krystianer also drops the expand. Don't forget that he warped in his sentries very early on, but now we're going to have a very awkward moment where sentries run into Immortal Sentry and a Stalker in the center of the map. There's also an Immortal here for Krystianer, but obviously since that Warp Prism wasn't quite there yet, that Immortal could have been in trouble. It's not in trouble. Immortal number 2 is not going to be in trouble either. Instead, a Stalker gets force fielded in the middle of nowhere. Krystianer goes for the recall on Immortal number 2. Now Spatz is going to continue, but he needs units at home though, doesn't Spatz? Need that Prism at home. He's giving up on his natural altogether. That's crazy.
This is wild. He's already used the recall, so he can't come back home. The Immortal that was caught in the middle of the map did get recalled for Krystianer, so he's able to help out a lot here. Does finally go down, but it bought a lot of time, and I feel like it will be enough to allow Krystianer to deal with this little hit squad. Probes are going to be pulled to ensure that that's the case, but now it is 2 base versus 1, even though Krystianer's Nexus is not yet done. Look at how many sentries he's got. He's got 6 sentries. If he just sits here, he can keep this army locked out for forever. He just needs to worry about the Warp Prism on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I kind of think that Krystianer could have gone for some offensive force fields. He will finally do that now, but it's a little bit too late. Now there is a second Immortal. I think he will still get that gateway. On the other side of the map, the Immortal and the Sentry is still doing somewhat decent, but finally Krystianer has another defensive Immortal. Spatz grabs one more worker. That is it. Still 25 against 24 workers. But the biggest problem now is that Spatz has lost his expand. And besides that one gateway and the one robo, he doesn't have a whole lot going for himself. And this is exactly what I was worried about for the German. There are so many force fields available on the side of Krystianer, and Spatz can't really do anything against it because he doesn't have a defensive Warp Prism. So you can save these units, and he's losing a lot. Might get one Immortal in return, can finally just stand here and fight. Hopefully he doesn't lose the second one either. But no matter how we look at it, Krystianer got the best of this 7 minutes of chaos. Did he kill another Immortal, by the way, on the other side of the map? That's kind of impressive. I don't know how he managed to do that with a low HP Immortal in his Warp Prism, but apparently got one more Immortal, but lost so much at home. Spatz, that is. And yeah, what do we do now? We go for the Robo base, or I guess we try to win the game with a couple of quick disruptors.
Yeah, I mean, that is the best scenario, I think, the best possibility. But we got to talk about the fact that the main base is going to start to mine out pretty soon because it's been so much chaos and so much has been happening. Spatz is going to be on half a base mining it a little bit versus an opponent that's going to be on a base and a half, basically. Krystianer is already almost saturated at his natural expansion, and he's already got an army supply lead. It is going to be up to those disruptors to not just do heavy lifting. They're going to have to lift the entire solar system at this point.
But it is possible, because nothing in Krystianer's army is particularly good against disruptors. So if Spatz is able to get 1 or 2 disruptors out, it doesn't matter how long he's on one base. His double Immortal rest, by the way, is really packing a punch, and Krystianer is already struggling with that. Like, if you just look at the media map and you look at the work account, you're like, oh, this is terrible. He goes for a force field. I haven't seen that one in a while. That is kind of crazy. But Spatz has 5 damn Immortals. I don't know how he managed to get 5 Immortals out. And Krystianer is dropping a Stargate. That is great if it was disrupted, but it's not. So that one force field, actually that one Colossus now basically functions as one of these ships that breaks the ice, you know, when the oceans are frozen and they can't make their way through. That Colossus has one role, and that is just to break the force fields of Krystianer and allow all the Immortals of Spatz to do their thing.
Yeah, and you know what? With there being 6 sentries on the map, that's a huge amount of resources. That's 900 resources, 600 gas that is going to be countered by the Colossus effectively. So I was thinking, it was like, man, this doesn't make any sense at all, but actually it kind of does. Now, I would argue that the disruptors would do a better job of it anyways. But I don't know. Oh, man, this game has been one of the weirder PvPs you will just ever see. So many counterattacks from both sides. Nice D-power on the Robo. Doesn't get the gateways, but will force the Immortals back home as well as the Warp Prism. And Spatz is able to just pick up and get out of here. This is buying himself a lot of time where he just has a far superior economy.
He's going to try to drop a couple of force fields, but these force fields are not the force fields that the German Protoss is looking for when he's down 14 workers. He needs something a whole lot better than that, and Krystianer felt that Spatz is not paying attention, so he will just move out. And since not all of the Protoss units are here of the German, this is going to be rough. He does show up with his Warp Prism. It's 5 Immortals, a Prism, and a Colossus. the craziest army you'll see in a 10-minute PvP. Unfortunately, this has just not gone Spatz his way. What Spatz needed was really some momentum to surprise Krystianer with this follow-up, to drop good force fields himself. But instead, because he still had to pay attention to being arrested to stuff at home, he led the charge with a couple of stalkers, those died, and he just couldn't keep his army together. Now, Krystianer is also having a hard time keeping his army together. What on earth is happening in this PvP? That fast. It's crazy, it's wild, but I do think it's gonna go in favor of the man from Poland.
Yeah, Krystianer does. He finished that first Stargate, and then I don't know if he forgot that he finished it because he built a second one, and now he is finally adding on Phoenix's cute War Prism micro to try and keep probes alive, but he's down 18 workers right now. And like you said, I just don't see what Spatz can do. The War Prism micro has been immaculate, but Krystianer's got his own War Prism and has been doing a good job with that as well to make sure he doesn't just get picked apart and out microed. For his part.
Yeah, but Disrupt is showing up though right before the Phoenix is here, and it's not a bad shot, but Spatz needs a whole lot more than not a bad shot. Good drop some force fields here, that's exactly what he's going to do. One Phoenix showing up is not going to give crazy damage. Like, Krystianer is being a whole lot more aggressive here than I think he truly has to be, and if it works out, then obviously it's fine because he can just close out the game, but technically he doesn't need to be here when he's up 14 workers. The man doesn't care, he thinks he should be here, loses a lot of immortals, but he had so many to begin with that it is good enough for Blazer Esports. Krystianer as the immortal mark. Imagine you just open the stream right now, you're like, what? Wait, what? What happened in this game? No one knows, but Krystianer has taken the 1-0 lead.
Yeah, you look at the timer, you look at the armies, and then you look at the fact that it's PvP, and you just kind of say, oh yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that it doesn't make sense, but like you said, Krystianer able to close out the game. Should he have been there aggressively? You could definitely make a solid argument that maybe he didn't need to be, but he was feeling himself, and I'm glad that he is, because that means we get the best version of both of these players, and he's able to close out game number 1.
Sometimes you just get caught up in this storm, right? Where you're like, we're fighting, you're fighting me, I'm fighting you, you're harassing, I'm harassing, all right, let's go, non-stop battling. And then you kind of lose track of the greater picture where normally if you're 14 workers up, if your War Prism isn't quite there yet, if you have not one, but 2 Stargates that will eventually give you the perfect counter to those disruptors, there was not really a need to attack, but it's good enough because he ended the game, he had a good army. I mean, obviously, there's so much to analyze about that game, and so many things happened. But I think the second Nexus of Spatz, I wasn't a very big fan of, because I had the feeling at that point, we were a bit too far behind to really turn this game into something economically. And I would have preferred to see him just... By the way, did they start the game already?
Oh, they did. Are you not in...
Yeah, it's okay. I'll do the clean feed. I'll find a way one way or the other. But yeah, I think the second Nexus was just a bit too late to really go somewhere. While I was like, if you have 5 Immortals, 1 Colossus to break force fields, and you get a couple sentries yourself, maybe you can make some magic happen on one base. And I would have preferred to see the all-out one base attack than the very late expand after already losing our expand.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one. It felt the first Nexus made a ton of sense. The one when he killed the Adepts but lost 4 or 5 workers wasn't too bad, but re-expanding when you've been contained for that long feels forlorn. It feels like a little bit too late, but regardless, that's PvP. As we have spawning down to the bottom right for Blazer Esports, it is Krystianer.
And that obviously means that in the top left side of side Delta, we are going to take a look at the main base of our German Protoss. Won 2 PvPs to make it into the final round of the Swiss format. He took down Mana, he took down DNS. Can he turn things around and make it into the playoffs by only winning PvP? Berserker Esports Spatz.
And this is why I was saying that this was going to be such an even match, is that it really does feel like these are players that can bring the heat. They're both such good micro players. They're both players that I think of, and their Prism micro is pretty fantastic. Spatz he got a lot done. Oh, look at this. He's going to drop himself a Manor Pylon. I should say Krystianer is going to drop a Manor Pylon, shutting down one of the far mineral patches. He will cancel it, but what do you think about that play?
Well, what I think he's trying to do is he's trying to trap the 2 probes, right?
Yeah.
If he is able to trap the probes, then it is a good play. Even if you're able to trap just a single probe, I would already say then it's kind of okay. But now he warped in the pylon and he wasn't able to trap any probes. Yeah, then it's not really a play. Then it's just something that you tried and it didn't work. You give up. You lose 25 minerals, but no big deal. I guess technically you won a few minerals by forcing the probes to go the long way around, but if you are able to drop a pylon and you're able to trap 2 probes, that is actually an amazing start. Because obviously in 1 base against 1 base scenarios, you don't have crazy income. So if then 2 of your probes are no longer able to mine, and on top of that, you're no longer really able to use that mineral patch, yeah, that's a very gnarly start. And you kind of want to prevent that pylon from going up at all costs. Spatz, well, didn't care, but at least he didn't get any probe stock, so it was okay. We've got a fun opening here with a couple of adepts. Adepts as sentries as the start here for Berserker Esports Spatz, who goes for a quick Nexus. Krystianer also going for a Nexus off the back of 4 adepts. Not standard stat first, like double adept, double sentry expand, 4 adept expand. Not the most common openings in PvP.
No, and we're actually seeing the continuation. Should be that 8 adept opener from Krystianer that you were talking about in the previous game. This is going to be really interesting. I think I really like this for Krystianer right now, specifically because he's up against a couple of sentries. But you do want to keep these 2 adepts alive on the other side of the map. He will force the cancel on the pylon. This is... This is... What do you think? I don't know. I feel like that's not the best to lose those adepts like that.
Oh no, I think it's okay to lose 2 adepts for double force field and 3 probes. I'm all right with it on the side of Krystianer. I think it's quite okay. Once more, 3 probes this early on represents a pretty large portion of the economy that Spatz can have. And don't forget that Spatz dropped double force field there as well.
Yeah.
I don't love it on the side of the German Protoss. He really needs to make sure that he can clean up the defense. But until you have Blink, it is not that easy to deal with this many adepts. And whether that's 6 or 8, it is just pretty hard to deal with this. So now I think the only thing you can do is just not mine from your natural. 1 probe pops, dies immediately. And I wouldn't even hate it to eventually let the Shade finish up. I wouldn't go for this one, because there is a shield barrier to Love Stalkers. He is going to go for it. Well, let's see how many probes he can get then, Steadfast.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a few right here. The shots are a little bit desynced, and there is the counterattack on the other side of the map from Spatz, which is grabbing a fair number of probes as well. It's a trade, but it's definitely, in terms of economy, a trade that is good for Krystianer. He does keep these 2 adepts alive, so he's even going to grab another probe there. Oh, and if he can recall out and save these 2 adepts, that is so good. That is fantastic for Krystianer. I do agree with you. I don't necessarily like that he shaded forward that particular instance, just because there was a shield battery there. And even though, of course, you can one-shot through everything, then you're overkilling a lot and things get a little bit weird. But it still worked out just fantastically for him.
Yeah, and it would have been even a whole lot better if he didn't lose that much at home. So I think that's the one silver lining for Spatz, right? It's like, okay, I lost a lot, but I took out a decent amount of army supply, and I also killed probes on the other side of the map. At this point, a 6-worker lead is nothing to scoff at, and I'm sure that Berserker Esports Spatz took a look at the worker line, because that's what all Protoss players, or what all professional StarCraft 2 players do. You lose a game, first thing you look at is not any of the other numbers. You look at how many workers did I have, and how many workers did he have. Spatz obviously realized after game 1 that he was just too far behind in the worker department. After losing this many workers early on, you know you're going to be behind a little bit as well. What he does have is way quicker Blink, so he's gonna have to try to make something happen with Blink. Against shield batteries and the double immortal setup, it is not going to be easy for the German.
No, it certainly isn't. And this is really interesting because both players do have the robotics facility. We got Krystianer dropping this Dark Shrine, though. That's a little bit funky. I think right now the best thing Spatz can kind of hope for is almost... He almost has to hope for a huge blunder from Krystianer to get anything done here, where he maybe catches the units inside the War Prism. and is able to then blink on top of it, finds an Immortal inside, but he's going to go for the sentry play. Will pop battery overcharge, that is, from Krystianer. Oh, Warp Prism is going to be able to be kept alive for the moment.
What a save on that Immortal. I mean, Spatz was really going for it, right, with a couple of force fields on the ramp, forcing the Immortal force fields, but that battery overcharged by Krystianer could not have been any better. First, it keeps the Immortal alive, then it keeps the Warp Prism alive, and then the Warp Prism keeps the Immortal alive. That was absolutely perfect timing on the side of Krystianer. 200 IQ, man, to have that super random shield battery there.
Yeah.
Because I would have been a lot more focused on just the ramp into the natural, but Krystianer is showing us that, contrary to what some of the other European pro players like to say, he has a pretty big brain. That was a great overcharge by the man from Poland. And yes, we've had a robo on the side of Spatz for a while, but do we have any observers? I know we don't have any cannons, but oh my goodness, we don't have a single ops with multiple DTs being warped in. This can get very, very ugly. Like, it doesn't have to be game over immediately, but I'm afraid that the damage is going to be game ending.
Yeah, I think it will as well. With you having to deal with multiple bases of DTs, this is going to be so much damage right here. The Observer does start to get chrono boosted out immediately, but we got a DT in every single base. And like you said, this just feels like it is going to be a lot to deal with here. Observer will pop out, but already 13 workers have gone down, and Krystianer, he is moving forward with his army on the right side. He's got his own blink completed now, and the DT is already chipping away at that Nexus. If Krystianer just clicks it with the main army, I think he's just going to kill it off, and it's already maybe too much, but this would be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it's not just the 13 probes, which obviously is a lot when you only have 45 to begin with, but it's the fact that not a single probe was mining there for quite some time. Not in the natural, not in the main, not in the third. Spatz knows that macro-wise, economically, this game is a nightmare, so he needs magic with his army right now. Blinks forward, snipes the Warp Prism, is going to chase down a couple of the sentries, but Spatz doesn't just need an alright fight here. He needs an amazing big victory, drops a couple sick force fields, all three Immortals, kind of zoned away from all the stalkers of Krystianer. But once more, the longer it goes on, the more it's going to favor the man from Poland, as his economy is vastly superior to the one of Spatz. It's now or never for the German.
Yeah, and there was a DT in that army. Of course, we have the two observers there now, but for a little while they were not there, which meant that it forced the disengage at a maybe critical moment where Spatz, with the charge upgrade, with the trap on those Immortals, might have been able to get a good enough fight that he could have pushed across the map and gotten something big done. But that one DT acting as an insurance policy, finding the army without observers. And now Krystianer, I don't know if I like this. He doesn't have recall. He recalled the Warp Prism. I feel like this might be the only way he could lose.
Yeah, we're going to base trade a little bit, but this is indeed going to be weird. Zealots and Immortals are very good. You need to take out that battery immediately if you are Spatz. That's exactly what he does. Every single Zealot matters here, by the way, so it's important for Spatz that the Zealots don't run too far away from the Immortals, because the Stalkers cannot battle these Zealots and Immortals at the same time. We are entering a bit of a base race scenario. I think eventually Krystianer will recall and will try to make a hold in his main. But I'm with you. I don't think this was necessary at all. There's still a lot of Stalkers here, though. Spatz wants to break into the main because he's already lost his own main base, or at least lost all of the probes, evacuated it. But I don't know, maybe you can just kill the third and then go home in a very weird way. Would that be a play?
Yeah, probably, but he's not going to kill the third. He's going to go home now. And Krystianer does have the advantage of the mobility with Blink. But he does blink forward. He grabs the Warp Prism. That is a pretty irreplaceable unit here. I think every unit for Spatz is irreplaceable. There will be a little bit of a trap on these Stalkers, but Krystianer, he doesn't... Even if he lost all of them, he still might be able to make it happen, and he doesn't lose everything. He still has the extra base on his opponent. He's still up workers, and I just don't see... I don't see what can be done. Blink forward, grabs one Immortal. Second one will go down, and that's going to be all she wrote. Krystianer is going to punch his ticket into the playoffs here. Very well done in a super scrappy